Welcome back, everyone. Open Line. Talking about mass transit, the mass transit proposal here in Nashville. Major proposal. Traffic certainly a huge issue. Lots of interest in this topic, of course. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to David. Hello, David.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
My question is...
What's that? Go right ahead.
After doing all what they have proposed, and the traffic remains the same.
Okay. Are you saying that there have been...
After doing what they proposed, the traffic remains the same?
No matter what's proposed, the traffic remains the same?
Yes, as it is now. After the build-up, and it remains the same as it is now. What are they going to tell us? Then my second question is, the problem with traffic is cars on the road. It is not horses on the road. It is not dogs on the road. In other words, if the cars number of cars as of now remains the same, how does the traffic then change?
Okay.
Very good, David.
All right. Thank you for both questions.
Because he's accurate. Traffic.
There aren't any dogs on the road?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there are probably more dogs on the road we might know. But certainly congestion is here with us, and we hope it remains the same, because what we're trying to do with this program is to ensure it does not get worse. You know, we are trying to stabilize our circumstance where it is, reduce it where we can, but certainly retard the growth and ultimately abate the growth entirely. Yes, and the problem is, the second thing that he said is absolutely accurate. The problem is too many cars on the road. Yes, David, you are right on it.
And what you said earlier bears repeating, and I can't repeat it, but it's about the number of people that can use this versus people in cars. Let's get that point out again.
Well, Walter is exactly right, and I know we've said this a couple of times already tonight, but you know, 1 million more people are coming to our region over the next 25 years, and if there are 1 million more cars on our roads, our city will absolutely come to a halt. And so we need to figure out how to move more people in the space that we have and provide more options for people to get around our city. And what you were mentioning was just the capacity of mass transit. There is no competition, not even from Lyft or from robot cars, to how many people can, you know, a light rail system or a rapid bus system can move through a city. Do you want me to repeat the numbers again?
I'm interested in those numbers again. It was yeah, what were the, just specifically, quickly, what were those numbers?
So traffic engineers measure vehicle capacity and the amount of vehicles you can move per hour, and a vehicle lane moves around 1,600 vehicles an hour, and a 4-car light rail train can move up to 16,000 people per hour.
And what are you seeing? Are you seeing that, because the other thing we hear is people want to stay in their cars. Are people about ready to abandon their cars? We have a new generation that want to get out of their cars. You mentioned the self-driving cars and Uber and Lyft and where we're headed in the future. Are people going to be more open to using mass transit, do you think?
They're already demonstrating to us that they are. We may have to add more bike racks on the front of the conveyances, the buses, and light rail can not only have them on the exterior of the cars, but I've seen some of the light rail offerings that have racks on the interior of the cars for cyclists. And but they're already telling us, younger populations are already telling us, you know, the car is not the be-all, end-all. It was for my generation. Make no mistake about it. And we're going to be prying our cold, dead hands off the steering wheel. But that's not the case for youngsters. And as the urban metropole even becomes more an urban mix, that's more the case, not less the case.
Yeah, and just the only thing that I'll add to that is that we started this process with Nashville Next, which was the planning department's general update to the general plan, how we wanted to grow over the next 25 to 30 years, and then the N-Motion Transit Plan came after that. And we have some really interesting information that we learned through the Nashville Next process about how our demographics are changing. And so in the 60s, it was about a 50% split of households with children and households without children. We're going to see that number really change to up to 80% of households in 2040 won't have children.
Really?
And so you normally are thinking about families that are trying
but
to get around, get their kids to daycare, get their kids to school. If you were driving around when fall break was happening, you know that school is a really big school schedule is a really big driver of traffic. And then the other one that Walter mentioned is that we also are seeing that sort of middle-age folks that do want the bigger house and the backyard. That percentage of the population is getting less. There are many more young millennials, and there are sort of the retirees that want to downsize, get out of their big house, move downtown. And so both of those groups are big categories of folks that would be really interested in a transit system like this. And so those folks that really don't want to get out of their car, we actually don't need them to. And the more people that are riding on transit, the easier it will be for them to get around.
I said I wanted to talk about this tunnel. We have about 2 minutes left in this segment. Tell us about the tunnel. Who wants to take that?
Go ahead.
Well, I'll talk about it really briefly, but so it's a 1.8-mile tunnel in downtown. It would run underneath 5th Avenue from Music City Central to the Sobro station, with a stop right around 5th and Broadway. And we're talking about using a tunnel boring machine, which would allow us to go underground and not have to open each block at a time to get down there. But again, when we really looked at how to connect the entire region, because we do want this to be a regional plan down the road, downtown was the hardest nut to crack. Downtown Nashville has some of the narrow streets in the entire city, and actually some of the narrow streets in any downtown I've seen anywhere else in the country.
And some that demand the most use, the most most diversified use. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other statistics that are striking about downtown is how much growth is coming to downtown specifically. We currently have about 19 million square feet of real estate space in downtown Nashville, and the planning department projects that will grow to about 47 million over the next 5 to 7 years. That means doubling the number of workers that are coming downtown every day and tripling the number of residents. So to try and use the space that's on the streets today would be really difficult to do, and then to have to reroute that around special events like the CMAs, which are in town tonight,
which are 50%
would be really
of the year.
difficult.
50% of the year. Can you imagine having to change your bus routes? I'm standing in Antioch waiting for my bus that can't get out of downtown.
Right.
Yeah. Bad scene.
That is it's a big problem. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break, come back, wrap everything up, be back right after this.